here it is. It's the wrap up. Welcome back to 31 Days of Halloween. This is going to be our wrap up of the movies, the 31 movies that I watched one a day for 31 days of October. This has been a very interesting experience. This is the first time I've ever done this or even watched, like, with purpose, one movie a day for an entire month. And I don't think I'll ever be doing it again. It was honestly very tiring to make sure I got in that one movie a day and then recording a video. And I'm sure you can kind of see the past couple of videos or really fast. Not a lot of editing, I probably talked so fast through them because I was like, right, I just gotta get these videos out. I just want to be done with them. And honestly, I had a great time doing it, but also towards the end, it started to turn into less of, oh yay, I get to watch these videos that I've never seen. It was more like, oh my god, I gotta watch another video. So I will definitely, I won't say definitely, but I probably won't be doing anything like this ever again. Definitely going to be watching horror videos still and putting out videos for you guys this way you can get an idea of what a movie's like before you go see it. And I'll probably do maybe more like no spoiler videos. So I won't even split it up where like I talk about the regular video and then I move into spoilers. I'm not too sure yet. Maybe I will keep the spoilers for people who have seen the entirety of the movie. Because I know sometimes, like, when I watch a movie review, I want to know what the person thought about, like, the ending or certain things that happened in the movie that would be spoilerish, but are still, like, really important to the plot or that are, like, kind of crazy. So, yeah, that's where we're at with that. And I just kind of wanted to go through my listings because 31 movies, 31 days. It's been a while since that first movie I watched, Martyrs, back on October 1st. So I wanted to do a rundown of the videos, starting with my least favorite videos. And I'm going all the way up to number 1. So my least favorite, and I wrote them all down. I went through my whole list and my ratings and stuff. So my 2 least favorite videos, which got scores of 1, were Martyrs, the French Extreme film, and The Killing of a Sacred Deer. So Killing of a Sacred Deer was done pretty recently, and I think we all kind of know why I don't like that. I'm not going to go into too much because I don't want to get into spoilers for each of these movies, but Martyrs I didn't like because I felt like it was drawn out and long and the payoff wasn't good at the end, and kind of the same thing with The Killing of a Sacred Deer. It was a very long movie. It was weirdly acted. The characters were awkward, and the payoff at the end was just not worth it. For the number 2 scores, I have 4 videos. So I have The Exorcist, Guido, still not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, The Last House on the Left, and Deliverance. So 3 of those are classic horror movies, or at least they're considered to be like classics or like cornerstones of the genre, especially The Exorcist and Deliverance. They just didn't do it for me. I still don't see how Deliverance is a horror movie. The Exorcist didn't have a great payoff at the end. I don't see why people enjoy The Last House on the Left because there's just so much unnecessary stuff going on, especially like I said with the one character running through the woods for what seemed like forever. And then I still don't believe a rape revenge movie can be a proper rape revenge movie if it's not the survivor getting revenge on the bad guys. I just don't. So, and then Cairo was just too long. And like I said, you could fast forward through parts of it and not even miss anything. So, yeah, those were my number 2 picks. My number 3 picks were Poltergeist, the new one, Raw, The Babadook, Let the Right One In, and Rosemary's Baby. So you'll notice that some of these I've changed my score on from when I did the review. So Let the Right One In, I had originally given it a 4, but I decided to make it a 3 because movies that are 4s were movies that I would consider rewatching again to give it another chance or something like that. I would not rewatch Let the Right One In, even though I did like the relationship between Oscar and Ellie. I wouldn't rewatch it. The Babadook, the child, was just way too annoying for me. Rosemary's Baby, again, so long, not enough payoff at the end. Um, Poltergeist, the new one, was just unnecessary. It did nothing to improve on the first one. It didn't even reach the same scary levels as the first one. It was nothing new or reinventive. And like I said, didn't even get up to the level of the first one. And then Raw, it didn't hit me right. Another French film that got a really low score. So, like I said, maybe I'm just not into French films because all of the Korean films I watched are really high up on the list. So my four scores were Prince of Darkness and Wolf Creek. So Prince of Darkness, I would be willing to rewatch. Same thing with Wolf Creek, even though I don't think Wolf Creek had enough violence to justify some of the reviews it was getting. But the Jack Jarrett character was amazing in that movie. And then Prince of Darkness, even though I didn't quite get it, I would be willing to rewatch it and give it another chance just because, one, it's John Carpenter, and two, I like the concept of the story. So maybe it's just one of those movies that you need to rewatch to really get, kind of like how American Psycho was for me. Like, I didn't like it the first time, but then once I realized it was a satire, or it was supposed to be a satire of horror movies and, like, rich people culture, I got it. And I really like that movie now. I only have one movie at number 5, which is The Final Girls. So that one, middle of the pack. It couldn't quite decide, in my opinion, whether it wanted to be more horror or comedy, and it didn't quite nail either of them. At 5.5, I have Cabin Fever. I also watched the other one of that. So I didn't give a score for the newer one, but I do recall liking the newer one better. This is another movie where it's supposed to be a horror, and it felt like Eli Roth was just trying to draw from too many different sources and also make it a comedy. And you definitely see those influences on him, like The Thing, Evil Dead. So I get where he's coming from. I just don't think it was executed well enough to get a higher score than what I gave it. We move into the 6s at this point. So at 6, I have Sleepaway Camp, A Haunting in Connecticut, Dumplings, and Apostle. So these movies all, for me, had something good going for them, but not quite enough to bring it up to a higher score. So Dumplings was disturbing, but I thought it was a little long. Apostle, it was good. I liked the story. I just don't know if I particularly cared for some of the slower parts in it. A Haunting in Connecticut scared the crap out of me as a child, or as a teenager, college kid. We won't talk about that. It didn't quite hold up on a second rewatching how scary it was. It was disturbing, but there were some inconsistencies in it, especially in the storytelling and just like where characters are and where they wound up, that kind of knocked it down for me. And then we have Sleepaway Camp, which, it was inventive. The ending was very weird, but the acting was just so over the top that it kind of ruined it. And everything was just so extreme and exaggerated. It was a little too much. At 6.5 is the original Poltergeist. This is one of those movies that I thought would have scared me a lot more if I had watched it when it first came out. The practical effects are still pretty good, but they just weren't quite scary enough for today's standards, or at least for my standards. I did like the story, but yeah, not enough to bump it up to like a 7. I think 7 is really movies that I really, really liked. So I have a couple. I have 3 actually. At 7, one is As Above, So Below, and then there's Sinister, and then A Tale of Two Sisters. So those all were super creepy, and they had a lot going for them. They're just not, A Tale of Two Sisters, once you know the twist, it's not necessarily a movie you'd want to rewatch, except to kind of see what you would be looking for to know the twist before it happens. Kind of like The Sixth Sense. Once you find out all the different clues that Shyamalan leaves you to know what's going on in that film, and you would rewatch it for that. That's why I'd rewatch A Tale of Two Sisters. Sinister was frankly very scary. The acting again is a little weird, but I think the concept works really well. And maybe if they had cut out some of the unnecessary parts in the middle, they could have had an ending that was a lot better than what it was. And then As Above, So Below. Some of the issues I have in this is the found footage nature of it. It's a little more shaky than I think it really needed to be. And you miss out on stuff, I think, because the camera's shaking so much and because it's so much darker than it would be with the kind of equipment they're using. So after 7, I have a lot of movies at 8. So I have The Descent, Hellraiser, Exorcism of Emily Rose, I Saw the Devil, Hush, and Green Room. So all of these movies I gave an 8 to because they kept my interest. They scared me, so there's a couple of things. So either they kept my interest throughout the entire movie, especially in a movie like I Saw the Devil that's 2.5 hours or something, and you don't even realize it's 2.5 hours. They scared me, like The Descent or The Exorcism of Emily Rose. They were unique, like Hush or Hellraiser, or they combined a lot of really good elements to make the story compelling, like Green Room. These are all movies that I would recommend without hesitation. Pretty much to anybody, maybe with a couple of caveats, but these are definitely some of the most recommendable movies, in my opinion, on this list. And then I have an 8.5, which is Saw. And I think I kind of talked enough about why I love Saw so much in the video that I did for it. But pretty much it's just the tension throughout it and the way that it's so rewatchable. And that ending still gets me every time. So after Saw, I have my final top 2 movies. So if you've been keeping track, my second movie is Skeleton Key at 9, and that's because I love the culture and the hoodoo that's put into that movie. I think the acting is great. There's a whole huge twist at the end. That, I mean, if you watch it several times, you kind of know, like, this is what leads up to it. But I love watching that ending. It comes together so perfectly. And then my number 1 movie for my 31 Days of Halloween is Bone Tomahawk with a 9.5. So this was a Western horror, and I think that this, even though the first half is kind of strictly Western, not so much creepy, the second half really makes up for that with the violence and just what's going on with the characters. It has been a long time since I've seen a movie, and I think out of all my 31 movies, this was the only one that did it, where I was actually turned off by the violence or like freaked out by the violence. I'm not gonna say turned off because that means that like I didn't like the movie. So I guess freaked out is the better word, where I was freaked out by the violence. And I love the characters. I love their interactions with each other, and just, it's a great movie. Again, one of those movies that I would recommend to anybody, and just hope for the best is that they like it as much as I do. So those are my 31 movies for 31 Days of Halloween. If you sat through all of these with me, thank you so much. Thank you so much for liking, commenting, subscribing, sharing my videos. Please come back for more. I'm gonna be doing a lot more videos. Mostly horror, maybe throw in a thriller here and there. But we are going to be continuing on with this. So thank you so much. I would also like to say thank you to my boyfriend who sat through pretty much all of these movies with me. Even though a couple of days ago I was talking to him about what movies we had to watch, and he goes, "Is this almost over? Because this is starting to get annoying." but he still sat through all of them with me. So thank you for that. So I will see you guys in the next video. Thanks for hanging out. Have a wonderful Halloween. I hope you get candy and all kinds of good stuff, and hopefully no spooky poltergeist haunting murder things happen to you. Bye. And this had 2 classic movies on it. The Exorcist, oopsie. Welcome back to the review for the, well, I guess not really the review. It's the wrap up, like I said, in the opening. I don't know where I got review from.